I wanted to create a little informal video, kind of a little storytelling moment, right? So I'm here with my Greyhound Maple, who likes to hide behind pillows. And I want to talk about Cerridwen and the myth of Cerridwen. This is a video that I've been wanting to create for a while. I just recently finished reading Cerridwen by Christopher Hughes, Celtic Goddess of Inspiration. My dog also chewed it up a little bit. Sorry. Sorry to Christopher Hughes. I feel like I have to apologize to the author because my dog chewed up his book. This book was interesting. I didn't feel like it was about Cerridwen as much as it was about the history of like Welsh bards and Alwyn, and how this potion of Alwyn that she created in her myth kind of flows through and is the inspiration that flows through all of life. And so it's more about bardism and how to connect with Alwyn more so than it is about Cerridwen. One thing I did find interesting, Christopher Hughes has obviously done his research, being from Wales, and growing up in like that bardic tradition in Druidry, and he, makes the point like Cerridwen is not actually a goddess. Like she's kind of become associated with that. Cerridwen's tale was more of like a folk tale, right, in Wales, and it was like I think the 19th or early 20th century. It was earliest 20th century where we started associating her as a goddess, being a mother figure. A lot of people now equate her as a crone, as a wise woman, when we're talking about archetypes, but she's like goddess of witches, right? Because she's the cauldron keeper. But really, her story was about motherhood, and she was a gifted witch, and she knew herb craft, she knew herbal remedies, and potions. That was kind of her skills. So I want to dive in, and now I'm like terrified thinking about it because I'm like, I forget how to pronounce a lot of these Welsh names, which is shame on me because I have a lot of Welsh ancestry, and I've been trying, I don't know, I have this like fantasy to learn Welsh, but not a lot of people speak it, and I'm like, I would have no reason to practice it, but something I'm going to do anyways. So Cerridwen had a son. Affadug, and he was kind of misshapen. He had discolored skin. His appearance was hideous, to say the least. And her daughter was this beautiful, gorgeous woman, and she wanted what any mother wants, and she wanted what was best for her son, and she wanted her son to feel welcome and to find his rightful place in society. Because of his misshapen appearance, he was kind of like an outcast. So Cerridwen decided that she wanted to create a potion for him to gift him with the knowledge of the universe, essentially. So she got to work because she figured if he was knowledgeable, then people would at least, look past his appearance and be like, okay, this is a person that, has a lot to offer, right? And by having this wisdom and this knowledge, he would be accepted into society. So Cerridwen gets to work and starts creating her potion, but she needs help because the potion that she's creating, which is Alwyn, which becomes Alwyn, is takes a day and a year to brew. So she goes, finds the old blind man in the village, Morda, and, enlists him in just stirring the cauldron. And she finds the boy Gwion in the village and enlists him to, keep the flames lit, because this is a potion that needs to be tended to day and night around the clock for an entire year. So she goes into the woods, gathers all the herbs that she needs. She's got, the old man, the stirring. Gwion is, making sure that the flame doesn't go out. Basically, they continue on these tasks for an entire year. So when it gets close to being ready, all it is the potion she creates, all she needs is 3 drops. It's 3 drops, and then the first 3 drops that come out of the cauldron, right, or that appear above the cauldron, those are the ones that contain the knowledge and wisdom that she wants to gift to her son. And after that is consumed, after it's taken, the rest of the potion becomes poison. It's toxic, it's no use. There's very specific directions on how this has to be done. So the day starts to get closer and closer to the time where the 3 drops of Awen are going to appear, and Cerridwen is not in the room. She's either taking a nap, she's just not there. And Gwion notices that, this potion is starting to bubble, and he sees it about to bubble over, and so he pushes the old man out of the way to kind of save him. So, he doesn't, so Awen does not drip on him. In doing so, the potion drips on Gwion, and out of pure instinct, right, this hot bubbling potion lands on his finger. Out of instinct, he just puts his finger in his mouth to cool it off. But in doing so, he ends up consuming Awen. He ends up consuming Cerridwen's potion for himself, the thing that was meant for her son, right, to help him be accepted into society. This little boy ends up consuming, and suddenly he is gifted with this realization. He's gifted with divination. He's gifted with knowledge and wisdom and the inspiration for all of life. And he immediately knows Cerridwen's going to be pissed, right? He is in danger. So sure enough, Cerridwen comes in, obviously, the cauldron splits, the potion pours out, it's all toxic, it's no use now. Cerridwen sees what happened. She's screaming, right, of just pure rage and anger. She understands what happened, and so Gwion takes off. He transforms himself into a rabbit because he suddenly has these magical abilities, right? Transforms himself into a rabbit and just takes off running. Cerridwen, being a witch, being magical, turns herself into a greyhound and starts pursuing him. So they are running along. Cerridwen is chasing him in the form of a greyhound, and suddenly they get to the river, and Gwion turns himself into a fish. He dives into the water, and immediately Cerridwen goes after him and transforms from a greyhound into an otter, and they kind of swim around again. She is pursuing him, and he realizes he's not going to be able to escape her in the water. So he jumps out of the water, and, he goes from a fish and turns into a bird, and he starts flying away. Cerridwen doesn't miss a beat. She goes after him and transforms from an otter into a hawk and hunts him down. And, as she's getting closer and closer, Gwion flies over a wheat field, and he turns himself into a grain of wheat. So he's dropping from the sky, going from a bird to a grain of wheat, thinking, okay, I'm going to hide. She'll never find me. And Cerridwen transforms herself into a chicken and just starts consuming all of the wheat. Because, at this point, she's got nothing to lose, right? She's kind of desperate. She wants to, from her perspective, this thing that she has labored over, right? This labor of love for her son. She's doing this for somebody that she cares about. And this was stolen from her. essentially. I mean, imagine working on something for over a year and then it just, you don't get to reap the rewards. So she consumes all of the grain, and essentially she ingests Gwion in the shape of a grain of wheat, and she becomes pregnant with him. And 9 months later, she gives birth to a baby boy. And, she had every intention of killing him. And basically, by killing him, she would be able to then consume Awen. And, but she doesn't, she can't bring herself to do it. So she puts him in like a leather bag, I believe, and just throws him into the river. So he kind of floats down the river, and he's found by a father and son, and they essentially bring him in, and he becomes Taliesin, who is like the first bard, right? And Taliesin is like gifted with inspiring others. This is the culprit who ate my book, you naughty girl. As a bard, he inspires others, right? Through song, through poetry, through... I'm so distracted now. This knowledge and gift of wisdom that he essentially consumed as Gwion. So I bring this up, I guess, for a few reasons. Just one, because I like this idea that Cerridwen is she's a fertility goddess, or before she was a crone, before she was a wise woman, before she was like queen of witches, a goddess of witches, she was a mother. And the cauldron is a symbol of fertility. It's also a symbol of transformation. So we work with Cerridwen, we call on Cerridwen. You just aren't going to leave me alone, to help us transform, right? Just as she transformed from the greyhound to the otter to the hawk. And that's another thing too in Welsh. There you go. That's what she wanted. In Welsh mythology, there are only 3 elements. So it is earth, sky, and water. They don't really consider fire an element. So and the number 3 is extremely powerful in Welsh mythology. Celtic mythology, you see, 3s kind of everywhere. Everything comes in 3s. So for Cerridwen to go, from a greyhound running on the land to an otter in the water, and then she transforms into a hawk, which is indicative of the sky. So in the story, we see those three elements, and she transforms into an animal representing each of those. I just wanted to come on and share the story of Cerridwen, just for you to kind of get a better understanding of her. We will be doing more with her inside the temple. I'm going to be creating a couple of guided meditations and a grimoire page and a few other things. So if you want to join us inside the temple, it is just a membership where you can essentially connect deeper to the divine, deeper to kind of any of the goddess. There's all sorts of goodies in there. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll leave the link down below. But yeah, thanks for listening, and thanks for putting up with my greyhounds.